Welcome to another episode of Intuition First podcast with your hosts, Heather McKay and Christine Mira. We're here to connect you to your intuition and the gifts of the universe to get more out of your life and your business.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Intuition First. I'm Heather McKay.
And I'm Christine Mira. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. Today, we are going to be talking about the cost of righteousness and what does it mean when you feel like you're in the right and you want to be right all the time. Christine, you want to define that a little bit better for us?
Sure. Let's see. The cost of righteousness is when you feel that you're right and anybody else's opinion or insight or position on it just can't make you wrong. And you just stand your ground and you speak what you think, and you either are listening to the other person or you're completely ignoring them. Why is that detrimental? Have you ever been on the other side of somebody being right all the time?
Definitely. It's not fun.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel like, you can actually speak your opinion, or you just have to bite your tongue or, shrink away when you're around someone like that?
Right. It makes you not want to be around them because you feel like they don't listen, they don't hear you, or try to even remotely see your point of view.
And if you are around somebody that is like that, you're probably right, because they're walking around the world feeling that, and we call it being righteous. They feel like their opinion, their insight, their position, you see it in politics a lot. They're always speaking down at people or over people, but the other person never gets opportunity to really have self-expression. So the cost of righteousness leaves you disconnected to another. It gives you the place of being right, and then shaming and blaming someone else because their opinion, their insight, whatever, doesn't matter to you because you're right. And so we use this conversation in the context of relationship righteousness. The most important thing in relationship is love and belongingness, feeling like you're connected to another, that you both are being heard and understood. So if it's you, the person, I'll use me. If I'm right all the time, that's very, very egocentric. It's propping me up because I feel actually insecure because I have to be right all the time. I can't consider anything else because in my mind, and that's all that matters is my mind, you will adhere to what I think. And gosh, look at that. That's like being a king or a narcissist or something that's sort of ugly and not really being human.
Right. Because as humans, we all have unique experiences. We all have unique perspectives. And even somebody you really strongly disagree with, if you talk to them and ask enough questions, you can many times, find something in common that you can both agree on. But it takes effort. It takes effort on both parts. And that's sometimes hard to do, don't you think?
Well, I think somebody who is righteous is not even realizing that you're asking valid questions, right?
You're probably right.
Somebody who's righteous is very closed-minded, very attached to whatever it is that's being discussed. And they have to be in the right in order for them to feel like they have value and contribution. So the reason I'm making that clear distinction, because if you're in a relationship with somebody like that, it's really hard to have communication flow in such a way where you're both making a contribution that would move things forward. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because you might have those relationships where you're trying and trying and trying, and you need to understand that you may or may not be being heard. And inside of that, then what do you do? What do you decide how that's going to work for you in your life?
Yeah. Like, do you want to stay in a relationship with that person? If
Right.
it's a friend that's this way, do you want to keep spending time with that person? How do you feel when you spend time with that person? Do you ever feel like you reach any common ground with anything, or is it always about them and never about you? Because that's an imbalance. And, you know,
And it's in any, it's whether it's a friendship, whether it's a love relationship, whether it's family relationship, it all shows up. It all
oh,
shows
yeah,
up. And
for
I don't
sure.
think we actually talk about those tools that we get. Like, if I'm the person that's receiving that righteous communication, I might not say anything. I might withhold my opinion just because I don't want the onslaught of their energy telling me that I'm wrong or that they're not listening to me.
Right.
So I withhold from actually being and participating in the relationship.
Yeah. And you can tell sometimes when, you know, if you're aware of it, you can tell when other people are doing that, when they're not listening at all. They're just completely closed off, and you're not, even anything you say is not reaching them. And so you just stop. You just stop trying. And
Right.
then when you stop trying, that deteriorates over time. And, if you can't ever make some common ground with that person, and sometimes you just stop spending time with them, you know, you get
Well,
distant.
and you might even yourself start questioning yourself. Like,
That's true too.
it
Yeah.
can affect your confidence and your ability
Right.
to show up and express. So, there's a framework that I learned a long time ago, and it's called it's the doingness. So when you do something for someone, that means that I'm withholding my truth or my perspective so that I'm doing for, so you, the other person, can be fully expressed and engaged. But I'm not saying what's truly going on for me because I'm trying to keep the peace. That's a do for. And then the flip side of a do for is a do to. And that's where I'm all big and I'm doing what I need to do and get things done. And I don't care about you. Doesn't matter what's going on for you because I'm the one who's important. That's a do to. And that's usually a revenge from a do for. Because,
Right.
you've been withholding all that time. And then there's the space of a do with. So when you're doing with someone, you're being authentic, true, and speaking, and they're being authentic and true, and they're speaking, and you're listening and holding each other in a place which we call love and belongingness. Like, it matters to me, Heather, how you feel, your insight, your wisdom. I want to know. I'm asking you questions. I'm engaging in what you're saying, and you're responding in the conversation in such a way so that when we leave it, we have a feeling of love and belongingness and connectedness to each other.
Right.
And those other two situations I was talking about, someone's always leaving feeling superior. If you're doing
Right.
for or doing with, somebody's leaving feeling righteous, and the other one's feeling shamed and blamed.
Right.
And so there is no connectedness of love and belongingness. There's always somebody being left small and somebody walking away feeling superior. And
Right.
what we really want to do in our relationships is to do withs.
Absolutely.
Because you're being seen and heard, right? And you're feeling acknowledged and you're being loved. Because if after an encounter you don't feel like that, that's an opportunity to do some inward assessing.
Right.
Like, what happened there? Did that work? Did that not work? I just recently, ended a relationship of 22 years because every time I left her presence, I felt small and contracted. And it was because of her behaviors. It was like there was no consideration for me. It was all about her. And then after so much time, I just was like, wow, this just doesn't feel good anymore. This is not working for me. And so I made a
Right.
choice for myself to be, to find the relationships where there's love and belongingness, and my friends and family consider me like I consider them. That's what I found for me to be healthy and expansionary.
Right. So what do you think if the relationship is important to you, but that other person is doing that or being that way? um, specifically probably the doing to part. What are some ways, like, say if it's a spouse or somebody that you're not just necessarily going to walk away from too easily. I mean, not that a 22-year friendship was, easy to do, but it's different, So
Yeah,
how
you're
can you
married.
try to yeah, well, yeah, exactly. How can you try to work on that with the other person? Are there any tools or techniques or things you can try to say that try to open their mind a little bit to be a
Well,
better listener?
um, you have to have that honest and frank conversation. And maybe it sounds a little like this. Um, Honey, I just really love you. Like, you're the most important person on the planet to me. And it matters to me how our relationship works. And they'll say whatever they're going to say. And then you say, I just learned this new tool about love and belongingness. And, the outcome of being in a relationship like that is that we both feel loved and appreciated in all of our communication. So, I don't know, is that something that you think you could practice with me?
Right.
You just make the invitation, you acknowledge them, how important they are and how deeply you feel for them, and you're creating a future in how you interact with each other. Now, depending on the response, will of course
Right.
depend how that future looks like. But
Right.
if somebody that is really caring and loving towards you, of course they're going to be like, yeah, that totally, yeah, that matters to me. How do we do that? What did you hear? Let's talk
Right.
about it.
And I think that first step of acknowledging them is important because at the end of the day, that's part of the reason that they are the way they are is they want to feel like they are heard also, even though they come across maybe not the way you want, but they when you acknowledge that, it's like you disarm that part for a moment,
That
don't you
and
think?
and that would work with somebody who's healthy and has
Right.
a range of empathetic
Right.
ability. But if you're dealing with somebody who's a narcissist, um,
Right.
and you get some negative static and feedback, that's a good warning sign for you to go,
That's true.
huh, okay, that wasn't the response I was looking for. Because they might make you wrong and bad. They might put you down. They might tell you, oh, that's such a silly thought, or that's stupid, or you're stupid, whatever that is. You cannot have that conversation with a narcissist, because all they'll do is basically chew you up and spit you out. And then
Right.
that's your opportunity to take an assessment. Do you want to stay
Yeah.
there? Is it healthy for you? Are you expanding?
Because if you're reaching out, the olive branch or the acknowledgement or whatever, and then they just minimize that and don't even recognize that you're having any feelings or any thoughts about the relationship or anything, that definitely is a clear sign that there's something deeper,
Right.
that they're not that they don't really want that love and
Well,
belongingness.
and there's this other thing too. We all think when we're in a relationship that the person that we are and our value systems and how we see the world is what is living in the person that we considered our significant other. And what
Right.
I've learned over time is like that's not true.
Right.
That what I see and what I hold as important may not necessarily feel the same way for the other person. And it's, when you have these conversations and you're really like looking at your communication patterns, and um, it can be scary, which is why people don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like wading into the unknown sometimes,
Yeah.
and
But
you're
if
not
you're feeling contracted, you're feeling disenfranchised, you're feeling misaligned, you're exhausted, you're feeling fearful, you're worrying all about, what are they going to say, all that kind of stuff. That's your soul speaking to you. That lack of energy, that misalignment, that fear frequency living. That's your soul saying, hey, might want to do an inventory.
right.
And I'm going to acknowledge, yeah, doing an inventory can be very scary. But that's the thing. It's like you only get one life. So if
Right.
you're living in a contracted space and your heart is always sinking and your health is not good and you're on all these medications and your stomach's in knots and you've got headaches all the time, your back hurts and your neck hurts and you're inflamed, your body's inflamed. All of these are signs that there is a misalignment happening for you. And you get to decide, do I want to step out of this frequency and create something different? And yeah, it can be scary. And it's, oh my gosh, it's like, you feel like you ate your heart and you're, where is it? And, but seriously, once you take that step in a different direction and you start to clear off all those energy patterns and you just are still, you'll see like, oh, there's a little piece over here. There PEACE, little piece.
Right.
Oh, I can breathe a little deeper. Oh, I don't have that nervous energy. Oh, my headache's gone. My back doesn't hurt. It may be because of the person that you've been associating and putting your time into isn't really your match for your alignment.
Right. And it may take a little time to even find that piece, find those pieces of you that you've left behind, because it's kind of like when something hurts and you don't really know how bad it hurts until it doesn't hurt. And then you're like, oh, I can move freely now. And I didn't realize how bad that was, how much that was affecting me. And the same with this type of thing is sometimes you can't tell until you start getting some distance. And then your perspective changes. And then you can see things you never saw before, even.
Well, I mean, I told that story about my left side of my face having Bell's palsy. That was my body screaming at me, hello, wake up. This person isn't good for you. That you're getting sick. Look. With my face being paralyzed and not being able to swallow and my eye dripping, just leaking like I was crying, but it was just the fluid from my eye. That was a huge wake up call. And, and
Right.
no, it wasn't fun. And I have to say the aftermath of that relationship was so painful. Like, I mean, so painful that I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And at the time I was going through it, I didn't like it and it hurt like hell and my heart was broken and I felt like there was something wrong with me. And the thing that
Right.
was wrong with me is I wasn't listening to myself, like, this isn't a healthy place for you to be. Right.
Yeah.
And so my body just sort of took over. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. And I'm not going to say it's something that you're going to want to walk into, but I am going to say that you have the ability to survive it. That if you
Right.
get the right help and support and the people in your life aligned with your healing and want the best for you, you will stand again taller, brighter, more shiny. And you'll know so much more because your wisdom will have grown by, miles and miles because you were willing to take that contraction and take the hit in your soul so that it could tell you more.
Right. Absolutely. Was there anything else that you think our listeners should know about that? Seems like we've covered
Yeah.
quite a bit. And it can really go a long way when you do have a good relationship or someone who is open to listening to you. It can make a huge difference. I know I've made strides in my own relationships just by trying to be more aware of the other person and how I'm coming across, how am I acting towards them? Am I doing for,
Oh,
doing to,
can I speak
or
to that?
doing with?
Can
What's
I
that?
can I speak to that?
Sure. Absolutely.
So a lot of times, you'll see on dramas or, the girl or the guy telling somebody off, and that's like, oh, I'm just all sassy and badass and, and then and then they show somebody leaving. But the truth of it is when you show up like that, there's something that's missing for you in the communication and the connection to that person. So
Mhm.
before you go in and have that, I'm going to straighten your mouth off out of, like go in, like, how would you want it to have to receive that?
Right.
Because when someone's barfing all over you, you're just sort of like, ugh. And there's no way to like have the connection of love and belongingness. But if you go in and like, hey, I really miss it when you call, or I I like to be surprised, or, I want a treat, or I need more cuddle time, or I need more face to face. Like, if you're already clear about what is missing for you, then when you speak it to the other person, it comes out more gently, because what you're
It
trying to
does.
get is the things that you need, not
Right.
blasting them for what they're not. Right. Like,
Right.
you're always trying to educate somebody so that they can have a better interface with you. But when you show up as a loving soul, and you show up with kindness and gratitude and appreciation, what else can the other person respond with if they're
Right.
healthy?
Right. And
Right.
you're talking about what you need. I need this. It's not, you're not putting it off on them.
Yeah. You
You're
didn't do
saying,
this.
I need this. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. So it's again, it's just, it would be a little disarming to them, and they have to think differently. They have to react differently because they want to um make you happy. Hopefully they
Yeah.
want to work with you to give you what you need, as you should want to give them what they need.
So,
And so
yeah. And here's the thing. I always just think it's so hilarious. Um, Somebody that you love, somebody that's, that your significant other, your kids, your family, good friends, when you leave their presence, you should feel expanded. You should feel light. You should feel happy. Sometimes friends will, rattle you in such a way that you have to do some deep introspection. But there's never that kind of feeling. You get a backhanded compliment.
oh
Someone
yeah.
compliment. It's like, so you never. I call it the Susie Gwynn. She's a really good friend of mine. The Susie Gwynn golden standard of friendship. And that is, when I leave your presence and you leave my presence, you feel uplifted and alive and appreciated. If I don't feel that, then you are just an acquaintance. Stay back there. Go over there. In fact, sometimes don't even get in my periphery. And that's the same thing, when my husband was alive. Like, I never, ever, ever felt like he was ever gonna hurt me, to do something, to be unkind, or to say something with meanness or malice. Just wasn't in his nature.
Right.
And I think, if you have your own standards of how you want to be treated in the world, like, I do not want to have those energy sucking righteous people in my life that make me
Right.
feel contracted and small. So, because I'm afraid I won't have anybody in my life, I would much rather be alone, being expanded and happy and living in my frequency, than have to have the fear that I'll be alone. Because I know that if I'm a kind, loving human being, there's always going to be people in my life.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
you'll attract those people.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with boyfriend, not spouses, but boyfriends, like, you might be the only one. Well, gosh, if living in hell is the only one, I choose not.
I'll be by myself. Thanks. Yeah. I
You
know
know what
what
I
you
mean?
mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, this has been a really good conversation. I think I've learned some things, and I hope that others have learned some things too.
yeah. Well, make comments, follow us, subscribe, whatever your fancy is. We'd love to have you to be a part of our community.
Yeah. And leave us a review if you have time to do that. It just takes a second, and it would really help us out. And please share also
Yeah.
if you feel like somebody could use this. There's usually somebody that might need a little pep talk.
Right. Well, this is all about finding your alignment and your divinity and your expansion. So if
Right.
these words can help other people, please share it. We'd really appreciate it. So
Absolutely.
thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Christine. We will see you next time.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Intuition First. We're so glad that you chose to spend your time with us today. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them and tag us on Instagram at Intuition First. We'd love to hear what you enjoyed and what you'd like to hear more of. And until the next time, keep listening to your intuition. It really knows what it's talking about.